All right, so I got something a little bit different here today for you guys. Let's talk about 7 stocks that in 5 years, basically 5 years from now, they're going to be in the $1 trillion club. There's some obvious ones, obviously, but there's also a couple complete shockers on this list that was put out by Motley Fool. So let's go through each stock. I'm going to give you my take on whether or not I think they can get there or not. And honestly, let's look and see, do you have these stocks in your portfolio or not? That should make you feel pretty good that, they could be part of the $1 trillion club one day. I just ask that you gently tap that like button and consider subscribing too. It's super easy to do if you like the truth without the hype. And I'm running a flash sale this week for my group, so I won't make the pitch long since that wouldn't be very flash-like. So check out the pinned comment down there if you're interested in 5 free courses, my buy and sell alerts, my watch list with price targets, direct access to me, and a ton more. Just the details are down in the pinned comment below. All right, I'll be honest and upfront with you guys. These first 4 here that we're going to go over are honestly pretty obvious. I mean, everybody knows these are great companies, and I just don't see any way they're not in this category 5 years from now. I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, anything can happen in the market. Don't worry. I mean, one of them could be the next Enron. Who freaking knows, I guess. But when I'm being honest and I'm being objective here, these are all pretty obvious. So, I won't spend nearly as much time on these as I will some of the other ones. So the first one is Apple, and you guys know it's well over $1 trillion, and 5 years from now, wouldn't be surprised if it was a $3 or $4 trillion market cap by then. I just don't see. I mean, we just had what? We just had record inflation, war, happening over in Europe. We basically had everything crazy. Fed raking the heights as crazy as they could, as crazy as they have ever. And Apple held strong through the whole thing. I mean, we just couldn't get that stock to really take any sort of real beating for any length of time. It just held strong during that. So I honestly don't know what else the market could throw at it that could send this stock down. Now, sure, they could slow down. It could stagnate for the next 3 or 4 years or something like that. But I don't see something that's ever going to knock this stock out of the $1 trillion club that we can, foresee in the future. Now, it doesn't mean there can't be a scandal or something else that goes on or something else like that. But barring something nobody sees coming, I think it's a pretty safe bet that Apple's going to be right there in this situation. And let's look at number 2, and that would be Microsoft. And I think it's basically the same exact thing. They basically held up pretty good during this downturn and such. And I just don't, what are people suddenly going to quit watching or using Microsoft? I mean, I just don't see it happening. I mean, it's possible, I guess, but I just, businesses are all going to go away from Office Suite. I mean, it's not happening, guys. It's kind of one of those deals to where, no matter what I look at there with Microsoft, I just see no way that they fall out of this club and how they don't, continue to maintain and are much larger 5 years from now than they are right now. Again, anything's possible, but I think we all feel pretty safe in assuming that, Microsoft's place in this club is very, very safe. Now, the next 2, honestly, are kind of on shaky ground. They actually fell out of the trillionaire club there for a little bit. And the first one would be Google. And they're right there kind of on the edge, guys. Another little downturn could actually send them out of the $1 trillion club. Now, do I think they're going to be at the $1 trillion club for long? No, I don't. I think it's going to be, 5 years from now, probably $2 trillion market cap, maybe even more 5 years from now. However, there is the flip side of that. All the folks thinking that ChatGPT or whatever the heck the next AI thing is just going to kill off Google's business and everything else. That's why it's trading so cheap right now, because there's a lot of folks out there who really think, hey, Google's behind and they're not going to be able to catch up, or ChatGPT or somebody else is going to take a lot of their business. Now, I personally don't think that. You guys can check my other videos out there on Google. I don't feel that way at all. I think a lot of this stuff is significantly overblown, and I don't see any sort of a short-term, for me, meaning 3 to 5 years from now, I don't see anything that's going to create that sort of disruption to where all of a sudden now Google is not a $1 trillion business and a $1 trillion market cap. Now, it's possible. I would agree. And who knows how it'll trade for the next year. I mean, it could stay beat down for the next year at least. But if you're asking me 5 years out if I think it's going to be in the $1 trillion club or not, I would say absolutely Google's going to be there. And the last one in this category would be Amazon. And it's kind of the same as Google, guys. They had some management missteps. They overexpanded into a lot of inventories, a lot of warehouses, a lot of employees, a lot of things like that. They're having to cut back on it now. But there's no doubt in my mind, 5 years from now, Apple is going to be a much larger business. I'm sorry, not Apple, Amazon. Gosh, I can't even get Apple in my head. Anyways, Amazon is going to be a much larger business in 5 years than they are right now. So I don't see, any real way that they actually fall out of the $1 trillion club again. It doesn't mean it can't happen short term. Of course, short term, anything can happen. But over the course of the 5 years, when I'm looking forward 5 years, I just don't see any way that Apple, or I did it again. Long day, guys. I'm sorry. I don't see any way Amazon, we have too many A's in here. We got Apple, Amazon, and Google / Alphabet. I mean, too many. Anyways, I don't see any way that Amazon falls out of that $1 trillion club. I just, everything's growing. They continue to make inroads and new, AWS. What is all of a sudden AWS going to fall? No, it continues to grow quarter after quarter and becoming a larger and larger part of their, revenue and their profitability on the back end there. So I don't see any way that this happens. I mean, all of a sudden, are you going to quit buying stuff on Amazon and go to the grocery store or go to the store? I just don't see that happening as they continue to increase their footprint and continue to go out. But they have to clean up the sins of the past here. So that's kind of what they're doing right now. So I could see it trading sideways or down or even flat for a year or two. But 5 years out, I just see no way that Amazon's not in this club. And you see that. I got it right there on the last one. I said Amazon. I did. Now we move on to the stocks that are chasing the magic $1 trillion mark. And let's start with the first one here, who has actually been a part of the club before, and that would be Tesla. But unfortunately, Tesla is way behind in the club here because they had a significant fall, basically from when it was $400 a share and in that $1 trillion club, all the way down to $100. And now we're back, hovering right around the $200 mark, a little bit below, but we're right around that mark now. I know everybody, when it was at 400, I said, hey guys, it's overvalued. It's got to come back down some. And hey, even if it doesn't come back down some, don't be surprised if it trades flat for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And guess what? It came back down. And I think whenever we look over the long term, basically the next 5 years or so, I think you may see that chart, I absolutely think they're going to reach those highs again. The question is when and how long is it going to take to get there? Now, in the meantime, you guys know Tesla is a roller coaster. I mean, think about it, 400 to 100, now we're back up to 200, and that shot up to 200 in like a month and a half or something ridiculous like that. I mean, it was fast. So those type runs are possible. It's possible it's going to run from 200 to 300 really, really fast. It did it last June, actually. It went from 200 to 300 in the middle of, basically the bear market. And when inflation was at all-time highs, there was Tesla riding high up to $300 and so. So to, count Tesla out in terms of getting back up there, I think to me is just silly. But also trying to say that, hey, it's going to be a $5 or $10 trillion market cap in 5 years is probably a bit aggressive too. I guess it could happen. But if it did happen in that time frame, I would suspect we would have a large pullback at some point in time as well, if that happened. I don't think that's likely. So to me, I absolutely think it's going to be a part of that $1 trillion club. I just think out of the group of stocks that we're talking about today, maybe the last one, take that back. Maybe the last one might be just as volatile. But with Tesla themselves, I think it's going to be the most volatile play out there. It's going to go up. It's probably going to cross it, then come way back down a couple $100 billion and then go back up again. I mean, it's going to be wild, guys. You guys know, and anybody who's been on the Tesla train for any length of time knows it's just wild all the way around. Who knows what Elon's going to do? Who knows what he's going to tweet? Who knows what he's going to say? Nobody knows. It's always a fun ride with him. It's a mystery ride with him. It's a gut-wrenching ride with him at times. But that's absolutely no reason to think that in 5 years, Tesla won't be there. So unless something significant happens and they're not executing, and oh, by the way, in 5 years, if they're not there and they're still executing the way they're executing right now, I will be buying a lot of shares in between then and now. So that actually benefits me as a long-term investor. I'm just going to have to wait longer for that investment to pay off. So absolutely, I think Tesla's going to get there. So these last two are honestly, I think, going to be really tough for you guys to guess out there. I mean, go ahead and comment down below if you think you know the last two. Maybe you guys do. I don't know. Heck, whenever I saw the list, I was like, oh yeah, I didn't even think about that stock. Anyways, the point is the first one I think is basically going to be a shoe-in to get there. And then the second one, it's probably going to go in and out of it if I had to guess. So if it gets there, it's going to go in and out of the $1 trillion club. So let's basically get to the first one first, and that would be Berkshire. And you guys know it's Warren Buffett. It's just slow and steady as can be. It's just going to continue to march up, especially if we have a rough economy over the next year or two. That's just tends to be when they thrive. And you know darn well he has made deals and made buys now during this downtime that are going to pay off a few years from now. So to me, I would not be surprised if they're in that $1 trillion club. And if they're not, they're absolutely going to be on their way to being in that $1 trillion club. And honestly, guys, it's going to be the flip side opposite of Tesla. It's not going to be this wild ride up and down, or the last stock. It's not going to be this crazy ride up and down. It's just going to be, basically, some ups, some downs, but pretty relatively smooth all the way there. And I think whenever they do finally capture that magic number, they're probably going to hang on to it, for as long as they can. So I don't see a lot of up and down with this stock like you do the other ones. And honestly, I mean, it's Warren Buffett, it's Berkshire. There's not too many better, well-run companies out there than these. So it's hard to doubt it and say, hey, it's not going to get there, when it was at, 50 billion where they're at now was deemed impossible. And hey, here we are now. They got more than, they got that much cash on the balance sheet, guys. I mean, it's easy. They got billions to blow and buy whatever the heck they want. So no doubt in my mind that they absolutely get there. And the last one is a stock that, well, I don't know. It's crazy. It's like one of the most shorted stocks. It goes on these crazy Tesla-like runs. Then it goes on these crazy Tesla-like falls, despite the fact that it doesn't have near the amount of, Elonisms, I guess, coming along with it and such, and a lot of other things like that. However, it is absolutely a retail favorite. It kind of feels like it's a Wall Street not favorite because they short the heck out of it all the time. But I do think it's one of those companies that in 5 years, it absolutely is going to make a great run at being in that $1 trillion club, and that would be Nvidia. I just think that space is really going to blow up, and if I've got to think through the leaders in that space and who's really leaning forward, and more importantly, where the money just seems to flow from an investment standpoint, it tends to flow to this stock. Now, you're right. It's going to be super volatile in between then and now. They may hit that club, fall out of that club. They may do that 5 times in these 5 years. Who freaking knows? None of that sort of stuff would surprise me, especially if we go risk on. Nvidia is going to be one of those stocks that really benefits from that risk on environment and from a run in that risk, basically that risk on play that will happen as such. They're going to be one of the huge beneficiaries. Is it going to go over the top? Probably so, just like Tesla did. And it's probably coming back down. Now the question will be how far back down, and do they fall back out of the club? And I honestly don't know. We'll wait and see what the circumstances are when we get there. But I absolutely think Nvidia is going to get there. It's just going to be one of those rocky roads. And to me, it's not nearly as much of a shoe-in to get there and stay there like the other stocks are. To me, if it hits it, that was kind of a best case scenario, full-on bull market, full-on, bull run. That's what happened, risk on run. That's absolutely a stock that's going to get there. But can it hang on to it? I kind of have my doubts there as if it can hang on to it. Now, if we're looking out 10 years and they continue to execute, obviously, and they continue to do well, then yeah, probably so. But 5 years, especially given we're coming into a little bit of a down period here in terms of the economy and such, it's going to be tough. But, this is the type stock that can get on hot, get on a run, and absolutely march its way up there quickly. So can't count it out, but it's not one I would necessarily count on being there, and staying there, permanently. And if you want to learn exactly how to do evaluations, set price targets, you want to see my buy and sell alerts and how I set price targets, where I have those are, what stocks are on my watch list, you want to take 5 courses for free, have access to me, have access to the best Discord group out there, and a whole ton more, guys. Make sure you check out the pinned comment down there and see if a group membership is right for you. And click this video here if you want to see exactly what stocks I'm buying in this market, and click here if you want to see exactly what my plan is for this market. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.